Here we are at Hodge Podge Australia. We're doing a Maleficent cake today. I'm using my complete creativity, so bear with me. I'm using butter cake that I've made. It's 2 cake mixes in each. We have the Dolly Varden cake tin and we have a rectangular cake tin. Now we're going to start with the rectangular cake first, so we'll move the Dolly Varden over to the side for a while when we'll place it on later. So we'll move that off to the side and we'll start with a crumb coat on our rectangular cake. We're just going to do a standard buttercream crumb coating that you would have seen in other videos, if not mine, in other ones, just to help the fondant not get the crumbs in it when we want to lay it on later. So I'm not going to bore you watching the whole crumb coating, just a good layer of buttercream smoothed out once you get down to the end, and then in the fridge to set. For the base fondant tonight, we're going with red fondant mixed with orange fondant. I'm going for sort of a flame theme, so I'm going to marble the two together. We'll start by smoothing out the red and giving it a bit of a knead, and then we're going to mix in some orange and we're going to roll it out together. We want to roll the red and orange out as long and wide as we can to try and get as much of a covering in one piece as possible on our rectangle cake. I'm still getting good at rolling out the fondant, and my mat was being very uncooperative today and slipping all over the place, so it made it very hard to roll the fondant out. I've done as best as I can, and with the big piece that we've got, we're going to place it over the top of the cake. Gently placing it on top of our crumb coating, which is now nicely set from being in the fridge, and then it's just a matter of starting to smooth it over the edges, and then we'll start tidying it up by creating another piece to join together. Now that we've joined all our side pieces together, this is what the base of the cake looks like, which has got a lovely marble feel to it. Moving on to the dome piece, which I have already crumb coated in a dark buttercream. I've placed it on top, and now it's time to cut the circle out for the doll to be inserted into. Once we're happy with the placement of our hole and we have all the cake out, it's time to put Maleficent in. I've wrapped her in some Glad Wrap to keep her legs nice and clean, and especially her dress because she has a long dress on that doesn't come off because we've got the top of it in there obviously. We'll put her aside for a minute while I use some more butter cake that I had cooked as well to make a tail, dragon's tail out of. I'm just sort of freehand cutting it and winging it as I go because I want to actually make Maleficent halfway through her transformation into the dragon. I have put the tail around the back of Maleficent's dress, and I have done a crumb coating and let that set in the fridge. Now I am onto the black fondant that I am going to decorate her dress with. So we're rolling out the black, which is kind of hard to do because I don't personally want to use corn flour because I don't want to stain the black. And again, my mat was being uncooperative, so trying to get to roll it out was annoying. However, I did persevere, and we are going to drape the black fondant over Maleficent's base, and we're going to start to create the skirt for her outfit. I'm done covering the dress and the tail. I'm just going to put some details on it. I'm putting some creases along the dress so that it has a flow to it. I want it to look like it's sweeping around towards the tail in the way that she is transforming into the dragon. So just putting some indents in the fondant. And then I'm also going to put some zigzags across the tail, making it look like dragon scales. This takes a while, so we'll come back and see it when it's finished. I'm also adding on some spikes that I made earlier that I was actually going to use as Maleficent horns for cupcakes, which I may still do in the future, but they came in handy now to use in the dragon's tail, just to add the dragon spikes that everybody expects to see on tails. They're all just, as I said, they look like the horns on the top of Maleficent's head. I did them all individually, and they're just on toothpicks, so they're very easy to insert into the tail. And here she is so far with the detail on the dress and the spikes on the tail. Just before we get onto the piping, you can see there I've done the zigzag in the tail to do the dragon's scales. And now we're going to tie both cakes together by adding some chocolate buttercream that we're going to pipe in a vine type pattern. This, I think, really tied the cake together. Beforehand, it still kind of looked like two separate cakes. They weren't really connecting, but as soon as you put this buttercream on and connected it, I also wanted it climbing up her dress. So again, you have her mid-transformation. She's in the midst of her angst and her rage, and it really just tied the cakes together. So I've just got a Wilton Tip 65, which I hadn't used before, but I really think it came out very nicely with the ruffles on both sides to symbolize the vines, and I'm simply piping it where I want. Again, freehand, I was winging it as I went, and I'm happy with the end result. Sometimes winging it doesn't work out, but I'm not very good at making plans. Here's the end result for our Maleficent cake here at Hodge Podge Australia. I'm super happy with the results considering it was a freehand wing, spur of the moment type decision to make this cake, and my kids can't wait to eat it. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you subscribe to see what else we create in the future.